Hi everybody, this is Eric from Switched, and today we're going to be adapting the Nerf Rivals Khaos. Here are the tools you're going to need. You will need a special switch, which we'll explain later, and you are going to need a little bit of extra wire, but everything else is pretty standard. We're going to start by removing all of these screws, and there are a bunch. I would recommend using a hand screwdriver instead of a drill. We actually broke one of our screws off. They're not very strong. Just get them all off, and then you can remove the side plate. So there are actually two buttons that control two separate motors on this gun. The first motor we're going to adapt is the one that turns on and actually sends the ball downrange. To access this button, we need to remove this little panel, and that will expose the button. And we are just going to snip the wires right off of it. Keep that button, put it right back into place. That way it gives the trigger something to push against, and it doesn't just flop around in there. So set that back, and we're going to actually use the wires we snipped off to wire a new switch on the side of the gun, which we can turn on and off. And so we've got our single pole, single throw switch here. And basically we're going to wire this so that one position is on and the other position is off. So what we need to do is mount this in the gun, and we're going to fish our wires kind of along this path of these other wires back to where we snipped off that button. So we're going to drill our holes so that we can fit our switch through the toy, and your hole is just going to depend on the size of your switch. Our switch came with a little on-off indicator, and then we're going to secure everything with the supplied nut. Once your switch is secure, we can go ahead and wire it up. And you're going to need a little bit of extra wire for this, and we're going to have to solder one end to our switch and one end to one of the wires that we originally snipped off. So here we're going to solder our switch to our little jumper wire, and then we're going to secure everything with a heat shrink wire cover. We're going to do the same thing with our other wire. So with our switch wired, now we can fish our line through the toy, and you can kind of go around that screw anchor, and then you need to go underneath the battery terminal there, and then you can fish it all the way down, and you can kind of just roll everything up and stick it into that cavity up there in the top. So now we're going to solder our extra little bit of wire to the wires that we snipped off that were originally on that button. Whatever extra wire you have can be stuffed into the cavity below the battery terminal. Now is a good time to make sure that your wire is in place to the point where it's not going to get pinched, because we need to reinstall the side plate so that we can give it a test. At this point you will need to reinstall the magazine, otherwise the motor won't run. Go ahead and install the batteries, and go ahead and turn your switch on, and then the motors should spin up. If everything works as it should, go ahead and remove the side plate, and now we're going to actually work on the trigger that turns the motor on, that feeds the ball into the other motor, which shoots it down range. So we're going to remove this button here. Same thing, we're going to snip all the wires off, and we're going to reinsert that button so that the trigger still has something to press against. So this button actually had three wires hooked up to it, a green, a yellow, and a blue. Now we're going to use the yellow and blue to hook up our headphone jack, and we do not need the green one, so go ahead and snip that off. Now it's time to prep our 3.5mm headphone jack. So we need to drill a hole for that headphone jack, the same place where we drilled the hole for the toggle switch, but on the side panel this time. So once your hole is drilled, you can go ahead and fish your headphone jack through the toy, and we're going to secure it with a zip tie. And the zip tie is going to be there just to make sure that that cord doesn't get pulled out accidentally, so make sure it's nice and snug. And remember to snip off any excess zip tie. So now we need to get those blue and yellow wires to where we drilled our hole. So we need to fish those back through the toy so that we have enough slack that we can hook them up and solder them to our headphone jack. Again, we're going to use a heat shrink wire cover to secure the connection. And we're going to repeat the process for both wires. If your rail sight came out during the build process, go ahead and reinsert it now. And we can resecure the side cover so that we can give our toy a test. Insert a magazine with a few balls in it. Insert the batteries. Turn on the motors. And hook up your switch so we can give it a test fire. If the ball shoots out, you're good. Now all we got to do is screw in all of those screws. And again, I would use a hand screwdriver here so that we don't accidentally break a screw. And once you got all those screws in, you're done.
Switch adapted toys, making play possible.
For more how-to videos, sign up on our website for free at www.switchtoys.org.